Not mine, but at my sister's wedding. Marrying a Marine she just met? I got into a fist fight. Best man threw up during speech. Her dress caught on fire. My uncle announced he was leaving my aunt for a 21-year-old. Drunk cousin spilled the beans about my sister being pregnant to my very conservative grandma, and we all got food poisoning for the caterer. Hopefully her next one this winter is better. Not my wedding, but a close friend's colleague. So much went wrong, but I'll summarize. Unexpected heavy rain. Wedding ceremony shifted to inside venue. Ceiling collapsed from heavy rainfall right on top of elaborate wedding cake. Luckily the bride and groom had a very good sense of humor, and IRC the venue refunded a fair amount of what they had paid out of goodwill. The wedding was nothing as expected, but the marriage has been nothing but a blessing. It rained non-stop. The venue was outside with a gazebo-type structure. We still held it there, just closer to the middle so we wouldn't get wet. We had a low-budget wedding, so no live band, just a DJ. We gave him the music for the first husband-wife song at rehearsal and all was good. We hired a professional photographer and also asked our families to take pics with the 3 cameras that we had. We have a total of 10 pictures for the whole thing. The professional photographer only had 6 good pictures, everything else was ruined for some reason. The pictures taken with our cameras were all ruined also. This was 17 years ago, so I am fuzzy on the details. But all in all, we only got 4 pictures from those cameras. When we arrived to the hotel, around 1 in the morning I think, they had already given the honeymoon suite to a family because they forgot it was reserved. So we had to stay in a regular room here. Edit. Just to clarify, because a lot are asking, this is a third world country. Very poor. And at the time we had just started rebuilding after a long war. Customer service was non-existing. Technology for the pictures was really bad. So it was a very different time, place from what we would know as normal now. Or what we would expect now. At the time, if things went sideways you tough it out and move on. Not my wedding but my parents'. I wasn't around to experience it, but their friends and family still talk about it to this day. The main culprit was the heavy rain that caused minor flooding and tons of road closures. Mother was very late to the church. My father broke down convinced that she was going to be a no-show. A few members of the bridal party were so late they completely missed the ceremony. At the hotel reception the DJ could not figure out how to get to the venue due to road closures and being unfamiliar with the area. The first half of the reception was basically quiet until the groomsmen found that the restaurant in the hotel had a jukebox. The restaurant let them move it to the banquet hall where they paid quarters for music. The hotel was understaffed due to the road closures, so food took a very long time to come out. A guest who must have been literally dying of hunger helped herself to the wedding cake prior to it being cut. It really sucked on the day, but now they look back on it and laugh. Whenever we're at a wedding now and the bride is on the verge of tears due to things not going perfectly, my mom will always say, "Don't worry about it. I got hit by a car on my wedding day and everything still worked out." My wedding was awesome, but there was some craziness. An ambulance was called when one of my groomsmen decided to take a bite out of his pint glass and eat it, on a dare he drunkenly made to himself. My wife and I only learned of this after the fact, as they were good about keeping it away from us. We had our roommate become a reverend online. E.g., we just referred to him as Reverend less than first name greater than . Several friends were impressed with the Reverend busting moves on the dance floor and then expressed surprise when he was drunkenly making out a large black man. Our priest, and someone described as a large black man, were observed stealing a bottle of Grey Goose from the cash bar. So the next morning when we were finalizing everything, we got to pay $300 for it or they could call the authorities. Also, we had given our Reverend a bottle of Johnny Walker, along with the other groomsmen, but he just never opened his groomsman gift. My aunt and uncle were getting married outside in fall, at a beautiful garden. All the guests arrived, but the priest did not. Finally they got a call from the hospital saying the priest had food poisoning. So they grabbed a waiter, sent a groomsman to the Halloween store, and had a wedding where they were married by a suspiciously waitery-looking priest. When I was about 12, I was an usher in my older cousin's wedding. The pastor had a heart attack mid-ceremony and died on the way to the hospital. Everybody waited in the church basement, fellowship hall, while my dad gave CPR and waited for the EMTs. After the EMTs left, the assistant pastor finished the ceremony. During the sermon portion of this wedding, the pastor started the speech with, "If there is one thing I know about this marriage, it is that this will not last." Edit. Additional details sort of requested and now provided. The pastor followed his statement up with some bull stuff about real marriage not starting until you get to heaven. This marriage on earth never lasts, and then it lasts forever. And he used a Thai self-centered metaphor to emphasize the point. And that was the entire sermon. Minus 99 tenths would not attend this ceremony again. My friend's venue burned down during the reception. They were in the paper and on the evening news. The venue made things right with all of it, but that was a heck of a way to start a marriage. 1. The DJ took the money and ran. Went out of business and didn't bother letting me know. So we played iPhone music on a little speaker all night. 2. There were two separate fires. A grease fire from the catfish being fried in sight, and a fire from the fireworks set off at the wrong time, right after the ceremony, when it was still light out. Although if they'd been set off at night, everybody would have been too drunk to put out the fire. So I guess that was a good thing. 3. That entire chain went out of business a year later. 4. I ended up hating most of the pictures. The photographer was not very creative and I ended up having to direct her for most of the shoot, which was exhausting. 5. On the other hand, people still tell me our wedding was the prettiest they'd ever been to, and the actual ceremony was the most moving experience of my life. I would do so many things differently if I could, but a wedding isn't a marriage, and my marriage is pretty great. A bandmate of mine was playing a wedding, and after finishing the first set they were shown into the green room and told that a small selection had been prepared for them to eat. They started tucking into the above-average rider and thinking they were glad the food was good, because the pay wasn't up to what they normally charged. Turns out they had been shown to the wrong room and had inadvertently eaten all the wedding food, cake and everything. Not my wedding. but I was working a wedding for dinner service and during the repetition out in the yard of an event hall. As the bride was walking down the aisle, the automatic sprinklers turned on under everyone's chairs and everyone went running and was soaking wet. Honestly, it seemed they thought it was more funny than anything, but I can't even imagine. I threw up the entire time of my reception. But, hey, I was fine for the ceremony and got married, so the day was a success. Ladies, always size up your wedding dresses and never assume the dress shops have any idea what they're ordering for you. I went off their recommendation for size and it was way too small. I couldn't get it let out at all, and would like to add this plus the 98F weather that day to the outcome of my health. By the way, I was recommended a size 0 when I'm typically a 2 to 4 in dresses. Not way off, but wedding dresses apparently come small anyway. Woo.